War means death. Death of soldiers, death of commanders, and even death of civilians. But war is seldom black or white, and so it is with the sinking of the MV Goya, which took the lives of thousands of wounded Nazi soldiers and German refugees, that one must wrestle with the moral implications of whether the end justifies the means. So to see if we can find the line between good and evil, we must return to the origins of this ship and how the turning tides of war would become the final resting place of the single biggest incident, maritime loss of life during naval conflict. The mighty motor freighter was completed for the Johann Ludwig Mowinckel Reederei Company in 1940 and named after the Spanish artist Francisco Goya. 146 meters long, 17.4 meters wide, and a top speed 18 knots. This Iron Lady is a beast on the water, with a rugged but distinguished angular shape. It embodied a sense of toughness and security. No doubt merchants felt confident having their cargo ferried on the back of this giant, but it was the size and strength of the boat which would attract the wrong kind of attention during the Nazi invasion of Norway. Goya was seized by the German army in 1942, whereby it was refitted as an auxiliary transport vessel for the Third Reich's U-boats. So much for transporting goods across the globe. This was now going to transport weapons of war for one of the most powerful, most evil armies the world had ever known. After a year of proving itself valuable to the Kriegsmarine infrastructure, it was turned into a depot ship to provide support to smaller vessels. This means it became a floating pit stop, a place for the nimbler vessels to stock up on fuel, ammo, and other provisions before returning to the waves to spread mayhem and destruction. This tragic turn from Atlas giant, contributing to the world economy, to fattened pig for the Nazi war machine was a humiliation. But from here on out, its role in the war became more complicated. By 1945, Operation Hannibal was underway. This was a German naval operation to evacuate scores of German refugees and injured Nazi soldiers from the march of the Red Army. The Goya was used as an evacuation ship, ferrying people west from the eastern and southern Baltic. Due to its size, it became valuable for carrying many passengers and even carried over 1,000 hospital beds for seriously wounded and immobile soldiers. But soon, this hospital on water would become a morgue. It's now April 16, 1945. The Goya is sailing from North Poland's Gotenhafen, now known as Gdynia, around the Hel Peninsula, and across the Baltic Sea. The destination? Kiel, in western Germany. In its convoy are two smaller vessels, two minesweeper escorts. Given the capture of Germany's neighbors and the Baltic Sea's predominantly enclosed shape, with two openings functionally stopping it from being the world's largest lake, namely between Copenhagen and Denmark, the Nazis would have felt confident that the line of attack from the Soviets would be from the Prussian direction. In fact, the Goya was used for target practice in 1943, so the crew had known that a torpedo strike was more than possible. But with the breadth of water mass to cross before getting to Axis shores, it was certainly that Nazis would see their enemies coming over the ocean's horizon. But that was their first mistake, because their enemies weren't on the water, they were in the sky. 4 hours after leaving port, and while close to the tip of the Hel Peninsula, Soviet bombers were heard approaching. The initial air raid caused minimal damage to the mighty Goya. This no doubt bolstered the German Navy's confidence. For now, they had survived a surprise aerial attack. But the Soviets' plan wasn't to defeat the vessels with bombs from above, but reconnaissance, as now they had been spotted by a Soviet mine-layer submarine, which also carried torpedoes. Usually, this would not have posed that much of a threat to the Goya. Having been a cargo ship, it was equipped with engines mightier than those of a Soviet submarine, but this time, outrunning their foe was not possible. 20 minutes of repairs was needed on the other members of the convoy who had suffered worse in the aerial bombings. It is ironic then that the Goya, a vessel designed to serve the world, meet its fate as it waited for a German ship, a ship of its captors, to recuperate. At precisely 4 minutes before midnight, Captain Vladimir Konovalov of the L3 gives orders to fire a spread of 4 torpedoes. 2 hit the Goya. Bang. 1 strikes amidships. Bang. A second explodes in the stern. sending a powerful plume of fire and smoke into the sky. In fact, the impact was so great that the ship's mast collapsed on refugees sleeping on the deck. Within moments, the ship had broken into two, and fire was consuming the upper portions. Less than 4 minutes after being hit, the Goya sank with thousands drowning in their beds. The Goya was built as a freighter, not a passenger ship, which meant it was not equipped with many of the safety features designed to preserve human life. So imagine it. You are a refugee fleeing the Soviet army with your civilian family, friends, and members of your village. Or perhaps you're a wounded Nazi soldier forced to fight for a country you didn't support. Or, more likely, you are a soldier in full support of the Nazi regime and eager to fight for its world dominance. Whatever your avatar, imagine being tired, hungry, and uncertain when the war will end. Now you're sleeping in your bed, likely the first real rest and respite in your perilous trek to safety, when a torpedo strike starts a 4-minute timer to your death. Assuming you had not perished up top or been in close proximity to the blast zone, the split and sinking of the ship was so fast that you were either dragged 76 meters to the seabed or you died with hypothermia in the icy waters of the Baltic Sea. Lifeboats, even if you knew where they were, would have been far and few between, and you'd have to fight for the few seats from the thousands and thousands of other passengers. Some of them would have been armed soldiers, reducing your chances even further. Not that it mattered. The splitting of the boat would put an end to any feeble escape plan. And so, it was that somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 passengers died. The exact number of survivors are also disputed, with most estimates approaching 182. 176 of those were soldiers. Only 6 civilians survived the sinking, but of the total survivors, 9 would die shortly after. It would be a long time until the remains of the Goya were identified. Although the position of the wreck was familiar to Polish fishermen, Polish naval maps referred to the site as number 88. Then decades later, 26 August 2002 to be precise, the wreck was discovered by a small band of Polish technical divers who managed to salvage the ship's compass. Yet it would be another year later, exactly 58 years to the day of the sinking of the Goya, that an international expedition located the wreck with 3D sonar. The wreck was said to be in remarkably good position and covered with fishing nets. It was declared a war grave by the Polish Maritime Office. It is now illegal to dive within 500 meters of the wreck, most likely because of the number of scavengers eager to explore the vast freighter. It's a tragic end for the Goya. It was designed to aid the function of trade, the lifeblood of nations, but it was captured by evil invaders and used for target practice. Although it would once again serve the betterment of humanity by transporting refugees, it ended up becoming their prison and their grave due to its own manufacturer serving cargo, not people of war. Given the minimal survivors from all the ships during the Soviet attack, it is a miracle that any information pertaining to the demise of thousands of civilians exists. Does this mean the Soviet sub was guilty of a war crime, or are they heroes for contributing to the downfall of the Nazi naval, and thus Hitler as a whole? Are there shades of gray amongst the death toll? Or is all fair in love and war? Surely the only people who know those answers are the victims of the Goya. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, then you can leave a like to show your support. Share this with a fan of naval history, and don't forget to subscribe to be the first to catch our next video.